Welcome back to Dining Room Devos. I'm Pastor Jeff Estep. Thank you for joining us today. In our last video, we talked about how we have an inheritance waiting for us in heaven, that we have a living hope because of Christ's resurrection. But today we're going to talk about how that helps us when we go through trouble. We're reading 1 Peter 1, verses 6 and 7, which says, "In all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief and all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes, even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed." He begins that passage by saying, "In this you greatly rejoice." What does it mean to rejoice? What is joy? Well, first of all, it isn't happiness. Joy isn't an emotion. Even though sometimes we use the word joy as if it were an emotion, it's really not. Instead, joy is an assurance that you are blessed and that you're going to be okay regardless of whatever circumstances you're going through. And Peter here ties that joy to our confidence in our heavenly inheritance. It's a sense that even if the world falls apart here, it's okay because I have a home in heaven. We can have joy here on earth in all circumstances because we're looking beyond our time here. And Peter tells us that this joy exists despite going through what he calls all kinds of trials. Now, what kind of trials might Peter be referring to? Well, we experience trials, don't we? Maybe it's job loss, maybe it's medical problems, or financial difficulties, maybe it's family problems or divorce. We have all kinds of grief, and certainly all of these would qualify as all kinds of trials. But Peter here specifically is referring to the persecution of Christians at the hand of non-Christians. You see, at the time Peter writes this letter, the church, especially in Rome, is being heavily persecuted. He's writing to Christians under fire, literally, as Nero was the emperor in Rome, and at the time he was persecuting the church heavily, even burning them at the stake to provide light for his garden parties. But Peter tells these Christians, and he tells us, that our suffering not only has a purpose, but also a goal. It leads to something. And he compares our faith to gold that's refined in a fire. I don't have a lot of experience with gold, but I used to work for an electronic circuit board company. And we would put components on these circuit boards, and then it would send it through something called a wave machine that would use molten lead to solder the components onto the boards. And the impurities in the lead would kind of float to the top, and they would have to do this thing called dedrossing it every once in a while that would remove these impurities so that the clean lead was being applied to the circuit boards. It smelled terrible. You never wanted to be in the room when they were doing this. But that removing the impurities was important so that you could have a quality product at the end. And the trials and the persecutions that Peter describes here have that kind of effect on our faith. It purifies our faith. How? But by teaching us to rely on God, by teaching us to seek Him and to focus on the promise of our eternal destiny. It's kind of like a distance runner who halfway through the race feels pain but has to decide to keep going. We develop the ability to persevere. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 4, 8 and 9, that we are hard-pressed on every side but not crushed, perplexed but not in despair, persecuted but not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. When we endure trials and we keep our faith, it proves that our faith is genuine. You could say that our troubles are creating within us a 24-karat faith. And in verse 7, Peter says that this will result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. He talks about Jesus being revealed. Now, when does that happen? That happens at his return. You see, after Christ was raised from the dead, he went into heaven and he promised his disciples that he would return one day. And the word that is translated in our scriptures as revealed is the Greek word apocalypsis. It's one of the words in the New Testament that refer to Christ's return. And we're promised here that at Christ's return, he himself will reward us for not giving up. We'll be like a winning runner on the podium at the end of the race. We will be praised and honored by our Lord Jesus Christ. So as we close today, are you experiencing hardship? Maybe it's one of the things I described towards the beginning of this video. Or maybe it's persecution by those who don't understand why you're choosing to follow Jesus. Keep going. It will lead to great things. And your faith will be purified. It will be proven genuine. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Keep running. You will receive a reward at the end of the race. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel to be updated when we send out new videos. Visit our website at newparisfirst.com. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email. We'll see you next time on Dining Room Devos. Have a blessed day.